replacement project, PW 20-58, and 2, exposure to litigation regarding enforcement actions against unpermitted street food vendors. The City Council will also recess to closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, Subdivision D1, to confer with its attorneys. The matter being discussed is City of Oxnard versus Rio School District.
Councilman Turan.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to take a moment to state for the record that due to the nature of my work in working directly with school districts, I will have to recuse myself out of an abundance of caution for closed session item C2 regarding the Rio School District.
May I ask a question?
Okay.
Councilman Turan.
Go ahead, Councilman Perillo.
Yes, Councilman Turan, do you currently work with him, or is it potentially in the future you work with him? Because I'm concerned that anytime an educational thing comes up, we may not have you as a voting member of this body.
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Perillo. I currently do not have an existing contract, but have been approached by them for work during this school year.
Okay.
And that still is a requirement that city attorney?
That is a decision for him to make, and it is advisable, I believe, given the nature of his work.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilman.
Duly noted. Okay, so then we're going to be going into closed session, and we'll be back at 6 p.m. for the opening ceremonies. Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We were just out of closed session. And Mr. City Attorney, any announcements out of closed session?
Thank you, Mayor. On item C2, the City Council, by a vote of 5-0 with one recusal and one absence, voting in favor, Mayor Zaragoza, Mayor Pro Tem McDonald, Councilmember Perello, Councilmember Madrigal, and Councilwoman Basua. City Council has approved settling the action entitled City of Oxnard versus Rio School District et al. Under the terms of the settlement, the Rio School District will prepare appropriate supplemental environmental review of its project to expand the Rio del Valle Middle School under a modified project description and including a requirement that the northern 10-acre parcel remain agricultural for the duration of the existing save open space and agricultural resources restrictions.
Thank you.
That is my report, Mayor.
Thank you. Our next item is the ceremony item, and why don't you join me in saluting our flag? But before we do that, I'd like to share that I'd like to have a moment of silence for, join the moment of silence for a former Assistant Public Works Director, Mr. Ben Wong. I'm sure that some people remember Ben Wong. He held multiple positions for the City of Oxnard. He was an Assistant Public Works Director. He was City Engineer. He was Acting Public Works Director, Utilities Director for the City of Oxnard, Water Resources Manager, and numerous other projects for the city. In fact, he was the third bridge overpass. He did that. He worked over at the Rose Shopping Center. He worked with the wastewater plant. Ben Wong helped us also with the MRF, the recycling station here in Oxnard. And I had the opportunity to work with Ben for many, many years. He worked for the City of Oxnard for 24 years, so he recently passed. And also additionally, I'd like to have a moment of silence for all the people in the Middle East. You know, there was a horrible war that we have out there. So please join me in saluting our flag. I pledge allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Okay, and then we have a proclamation. Let me see. We have is this on?
Hello, testing. Yeah, we have a proclamation. I'd like to call Dale up, for a sergeant from the Oxnard PD, and the rest of the staff. How you doing, Sergeant? Hi. How are you? Hi, Miss. How are you? Stand on this side. Stand on this side. How you doing? Stand on this side. Okay, we have a proclamation, Domestic Violence Awareness Month, October 2023, whereas October is designated as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Domestic violence is a crime which affects all races, cultures, and social demographics, and has profound impact on the families and the community. Whereas children that grow up in the violent homes are believed to be abused and neglected at a rate higher than the national average, where a coordinated community effort will put a stop to this atrocious crimes, whereas Domestic Violence Awareness Month provides an excellent opportunity for residents to learn more about preventing domestic violence and to show support for the numerous organizations and individuals who provide critical advocacy services and assistance to victims. Whereas the City of Oxnard Police Department and community-based organizations are in a position to provide education, information, and service to assist victims in believing that they have the right to feel safe and feel free from violence at home and in the workplace. Whereas we recognize the survivors and victims of abuse whose courage inspires all, we recommend offering a helping hand to those in most need to remind them they are not alone. Whereas we must continue to stand along those advocates, victims, service providers, law enforcement, and other criminal justice systems as they hold offenders accountable and provide care and support for the survivors during the darkest moments in their life. Whereas the City of Oxnard Police Department urges all residents to take a stand against domestic violence by raising awareness about this issue and the resources available to victims seeking escape from this abuse. Whereas we continue the efforts to end violence in our homes and schools and communities. Now, therefore, I, John C. Zaragoza, Mayor of the City of Oxnard, do proclaim October 23 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the City of Oxnard and encourage all the residents to participate in programs and outreach in the efforts aimed towards educating, supporting those who are victims of domestic violence. And this is signed by the Mayor today on this day of 17th of October. Dale?
Thank you, Mayor. This is an important month for us. I want to thank the Mayor and the City Council for this proclamation. It's important to bring awareness for domestic violence out to the community. I also want to thank my detectives who I brought with me today from the Family Protection Unit who help investigate the cases and help bring justice for our victims. Domestic violence is one of those dark topics that people don't like to talk about, but it's important that we take a stand, both as a community and as a police department. If you see something that doesn't look right, you stand up and you say something. As the proclamation reads, domestic violence affects not only the victims of the violence, but also the children, the family members, the friends, and the neighbors that have to witness or hear about these atrocities. At the department, we've been doing a lot of activities. We hung up a banner down on C Street that brings awareness to domestic violence. Our patrol units have ribbons on them that are the color purple for domestic violence. As you see, my lead detective in domestic violence, Lucy Butel, she's wearing purple. We actually have one of our units this year wrapped in vinyl wrapping with our decals that are domestic violence awareness. This Monday, October 23rd, we'll be doing our annual spectacular event. And this year we're going back to traditional trunk or treat. But at this event, we're going to have a domestic violence booth. We'll be handing out information for the community to take and be aware to spread the word on this issue. Thank you.
Sergeant, do you want to introduce your
Sure.
officers here?
Anyone want to speak? I don't think any of these guys want to speak.
So I'm Mary Gonzalez, and I work in the Family Protection Unit for primarily on sex crimes.
Manuel Perez, I work for the Family Protection Unit and Domestic Violence Unit.
Mary Pence, I work for the Family Protection Unit.
Juan Morales, and I'm with the Sexual Assault Unit.
Lucy Butel, I'm the corporal in the Domestic Violence Unit.
Thank you. We really want to thank you for all the things you're doing because there's a lot of domestic violence and individuals and children that are hurt every single day, and we just need to help them out and support them. And thank you so much. Put your hands together for the police. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
If I can say something.
Go ahead, Councilor Perrella.
Recently, at a PAL event, at the PAL, there was an opportunity to sit next to an Oxnard Police Department officer, and I was telling him I appreciate the work that he was doing and the risks that he puts on the street and some of the things that he has to see and that you can never get out of your mind. And he specifically gave the instance of domestic violence. And it wasn't the parents fighting, it was the looks on the children and the looks that he can never get out of his mind because he gets to see the children of the parents that are duking it out. And that's one of the things that our officers, not physical, but emotional baggage that they end up carrying for the rest of their lives. I want to thank them for all the work they do.
Thank you so much for your comments. Our next item's not in the agenda.
Excuse me, Mayor Zaragoza.
Speakers?
Please let the record show that Councilwoman Basua joined the meeting at 4:45 p.m.
Also, our Councilman, Arthur Valenzuela has an excused absence. Thank you. Okay, items on the agenda, we have Mandy Torres, Carla Alejandra. Is she available?
Yes, Carla is available. Let me unmute her. Hold on. Carla, please press *6 to unmute, and you have 3 minutes.
The 13th of October marked the 11th anniversary of the murder of Alfonso Limon by the Oxnard Police Department. The following is an excerpt from the official audit report by OIR Group. Quote, the autopsies found that Mr. Limon suffered 22 gunshot wounds from 15 to 21 gunshots, while Mr. Cepeda suffered 7 wounds from 5 to 6 gunshots. The investigation found that a total of 9 OPD officers had collectively fired between 69 to 70 rounds, with some officers firing pistols, others rifles, one a shotgun, and one firing both a rifle and a pistol, end quote. For a long time, the story was that this happened because Jose Cepeda was a criminal who ran away and shot at OPD for no reason. This is another excerpt from the same audit report detailing what happened during the initial stop with Jose and his friends. Quote, the officers repeatedly used profanity and referred to the occupants as stupid, while the officer told the occupants at one point to put their hands up. He instructed his partner to shoot one of the occupants in the back of the head if his hands came up. The officer audibly told another officer that he was about to shoot one of the occupants, end quote. Jose heard the cops talking about how they were going to murder him. That's why he ran. And they did murder him, and Alfonso too. It has become a custom for OPD to recognize its officers and their achievements at these meetings. So I will now recognize the cops involved in Jose and Alfonso's murders. John Brislinger also was an undercover cop at protests for Alfonso's murder. Rocky Marquez, now the OPD police commander, and also killed a man in 2009. Jess Aragon, another undercover cop at protests. Matthew Ross, also involved in the murder of Robert Ramirez. Pedro Rodriguez, involved in the murder of Robert Ramirez and worked as a school resource officer. Ryan Lochner, caught in video in 2016 beating a detained person. Ernie Orozco, also involved in a murder of a man in 2009. Zachary Stiles killed Timothy Chacon in 2010. Roslyn Wilfert, involved in the murder of Robert Ramirez, became a lawyer and Ventura Deputy District Attorney.
30 seconds.
State-sanctioned violence will never be forgotten or forgiven, locally or globally. From Oxnard to Palestine, may all police states fall. La policía no me defiende. Nosotros nos defendemos.
Okay, our next speaker is Michael Wright Hodges.
It's Mikhail.
Michael, I'm sorry.
Mikhail.
Oh, I'm sorry. It looks like Michael here. My apologies.
Everyone does it.
Thank you. Thank you. My apologies for that.
No, no problem.
Mm-hmm. You have 3 minutes, Scott. Mm-hmm.
Hello, my name is Mikhail Wright Hodges. I am a Haitian American mother of 3 sons and grandma to 2 granddaughters. I also serve the Neural Rights United States of America organization. Our mission is to raise awareness about the importance for you, our elected leaders here in Oxnard, California, the County of Ventura, and throughout the United States of America to enact neural rights laws to not only protect yourselves, your loved ones, and us, your voters, but more importantly, to help future generations. The neurological system is our body's command center, originating from our brain. It controls our movement, thoughts, and automatic responses to the world around us. It also controls our body systems and processes such as digestion, breathing, and sexual development. Our nervous system guides almost everything we do, think, say, or feel. It controls complicated processes like movement, thought, and memory. Our nervous system affects every aspect of our health, which is why it needs to be protected. We need you to enact neural rights laws because of unregulated advancements in technology. Things are rolling out to the public without safeguards. One example are AI chatbots that sound similar to a human voice, which have been accused of talking a user into trying to kill the queen. Another victim committed suicide after conversations about climate change with his chatbot. Also, since 2017, a wearable ultrasonic speaker that lets the user whisper to people 30 yards away has been in the works for our military to use in combat. But another problem is that these devices can still be sold to the public on the dark web too. Another example is the Apple Watch or any Fitbit wearable device that measures heart rate, pulse, BP, temperature. They collect the user's medical data. These corporations, such as Apple, are technology corporations, not healthcare, whereas they are not bound by HIPAA privacy rules, and it's also a federal law that the healthcare community must abide by. By enacting neural rights laws, which would make it illegal for anyone, any tech, to control, talk any man, woman, or child, basically any human being, into criminal or suicidal behavior without their knowledge of being neurologically mind controlled. We have put together some ideas for some neural rights laws. The right to protection from being remote controlled or talked into criminal or suicidal behavior without knowledge or consent through the use of any type of technology, audio devices, electronics such as directional speakers, voice to skull, or acoustic weapons. And I think I got seconds. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Okay. Our next speaker is Paul, Sanstisa, Paul. I don't want to mispronounce your last name.
Oh, it's Sangster.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Paul.
Oh, well, I'm the owner of the Teatro Theater. It's 626 South Oxnard Boulevard. It's the old movie theater. It's built 1929. It's one of the most beautiful buildings in Oxnard. Now, I've owned the building for over 10 years, and recently there's been a huge amount of graffiti on the building. Every couple of days, there's new graffiti. I can't keep up with it because I clean the wall, and every few days there's more graffiti back on the wall, but I keep getting citations or letters from the city to say, remove the graffiti unless you're going to get a citation. I've cleaned the wall maybe 4 times in the last few weeks, but I just went there now. There's homeless person sleeping in the parking lot. There's trash all over the parking lot. There's more graffiti. There's gang graffiti. It's not real graffiti. It's a tag, and it's replaced by another tag. And so my problem is, I think the reason for blaming the businesses for the graffiti is kind of a backwards way of thinking. It's like you should work with the businesses and not blame the victim for the graffiti by giving citations. Then also, I did meet with the city manager, and I tried to discuss the problems. We talked about increasing the lighting. That's going to take about 3 or 4 months for the city to do the lights in the parking lot. But it's a little bit frustrating because I don't know what to do about it. It's every couple of days there's new graffiti. It's a beautiful building. I don't want to cover up the wall with a mural. I think it's a nice brick building. And also, the money that was given to the city from the riverfront settlement fund, I suggested maybe some of those funds could be used to help the businesses, like the facade grant that was in the past was given to improve the businesses, keep the buildings looking beautiful. But I think that the Teatro Theater is an old movie theater, so that money was never offered or even suggested to the Teatro. The Teatro is 1929 old movie theater, so it does fall under the guidelines of that money should have been allocated to the businesses, which is an old movie theater. So That's just my comment, but I'd like to find out what's going to be going on with that money and maybe have it considered for the Teatro Theater to keep the neon, the building looking beautiful. Like some of those funds would be helpful because right now the Teatro is empty because I can't keep a tenant there because it's really kind of run down the alleyway. It's always trash, always graffiti. Nobody really wants to be in the building. It's a difficult situation, and I'm trying my best, but I'd like the council to consider maybe setting a meeting with me or exchanging emails and to review some of the problems that I brought up today. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul, and staff listen to you, so I'm going to give them this information, so they can get together with you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Gary Davis.
Good evening, Mayor Zaragoza, City Council members, and City Manager. Thank you for the opportunity to provide some updates and progress reports on behalf of the Oxnard Performing Arts Center Corporation Board. I am Gary Davis, and I have the honor of serving as Chairperson and Secretary for the OPAC Corporation Board. I would like to take just a moment to recognize my colleagues on that board who were able to be here with me tonight. Mr. Gary Blum, who is our Chairperson Emeritus, please stand. Behind him is Carol Flores Beck, Vice Chairperson. And we also have members, Patrick Mullen, member. Len Shulman, member. Suki Sir, member. And Carolyn Mullen, where are you, Carolyn? In the back, she's not feeling well, Executive Director. I think those are the members who were able to join me. Thank you.
Welcome.
Some council members and the city manager will recall that at a city council meeting of winter 2020, the city's leadership set a target of $90,000 per year that the OPAC board would generate for the city. I am pleased to report that for the 2022-23 fiscal year, the OPAC board submitted to the city $102,160, which was generated from rentals of the 2 large ballrooms and 5 meeting rooms, those areas under the responsibility of the OPAC Corporation Board. The agreement with the city was for the OPAC Board to submit to the city 50% of the income received from rental of those facilities. The OPAC Board continues to appreciate the opportunity to serve the city's interest and to fulfill the OPAC mission, which is to foster and serve our community through inclusive programming, cultural and artistic exchanges, and developing people-centered spaces. Also, I would just like to add, if the city's leadership discusses the future of the Carnegie Arts Museum, the OPAC Corporation Board would appreciate being invited to participate in that conversation. The OPAC Board remains committed to serving the best interest of the Oxnard community and the residents of the OPAC adjacent neighborhoods. We also just want to say thank you to Mr. Mayor, City Council, City Manager, for all you continue to do for our great city. Thank you.
Gary, thank you, and thank you for your board for all the work that you do, and our city manager, is listening to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Madam Clerk, do we have any other speakers virtually or in person?
Mayor Zaragoza, we have no additional speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Okay, so then we're going to continue, and thank you again, Gary, for the report. Our next report is item G, and this is the city manager's report. Mr. City Manager, subject is local government fund facts, investment in South Oxnard. Recommendation is that public and the city council receive a city manager discussion about Oxnard's investment in South Oxnard in recent years. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to begin this as the slides come up. So last month we had a small group of neighbors from South Oxnard come here and protest the potential homeless services project that Del Playa in. And as part of that discussion, people repeatedly made comments, which I've heard in all 5 years that I've been here, that the city, specifically City Hall, neglects South Oxnard. And so tonight I want to share information about all the investments that the city makes in South Oxnard. I understand there are challenges and that life is difficult for various reasons. But I want to argue that it's not because the City Hall neglects South Oxnard. So we want to talk about that, and then I want to address what I consider to be the key problem. Now, with regard to the Del Playa Inn, I have an update on that. First of all, that was not proposed as a city project. That was actually a project proposed by Cabrillo Economic Development, which is a nonprofit affordable housing developer. The city was helping them along because we had some inputs into the potential project like we do with other projects with Cabrillo. So that was not a city-initiated project, but rather a Cabrillo. Regardless of that, though, the update is that Cabrillo has, given that that project was going through an evaluation process in Sacramento, last week Cabrillo notified us that they were pulling out their application. So that project is not going to happen at Del Playa Inn. So I just want to give you that update. Now, with regard to South Oxnard and this repeated narrative that City Hall neglects South Oxnard, I want to first talk about just the general development of the city of Oxnard going back to the 1960s. So if you see this map here, you can see starting in with the yellow, I'm gonna do my best with these colors. I can't see all of them. Well, if I look here, I might be able to. Okay, so what's obviously yellow, which is in the center core here, these were, in terms of the second half of the 20th century, these were the earlier neighborhoods of Oxnard. So you can see, now I know there are some people here that have been born and raised here and are older than this, and they remember even before some of those yellow neighborhoods came into existence. And I've been told by some of them, you know, in my day, that was nothing but lemon groves. So I understand time changes, and then I would ask them, what about before the lemon groves? So you can sort of ask that question going back even beyond the 20th century. So then, as the decades proceeded, you can see you go from the 60s to the 80s to the 90s, and then to much more recently, some of the, what you would call the newer neighborhoods that are in these non-yellow colors. I think this is red, this is blue, and this is blue. 2 shades of blue. I'm colorblind. 2 shades of blue. So I'm going to go to the next slide. Now, what this shows you are the creation and now existence of special assessment districts where neighborhoods pay, in addition to their annual property tax, they pay an extra tax on their property tax in order to take care of their landscaping, their maintenance. In some areas, like in River Park, it actually pays for 2 schools, sports field, and a fire station. So these neighborhoods actually pay more each year on their property tax than the neighborhoods from the 60s. Now, a lot of this, actually all of this, has to do with Prop 13 and then eventually Prop 218 and so on. And in essence, builders were not allowed to build these neighborhoods without setting up special districts to pay for things that prior to Prop 13, the general fund sales tax and property taxes would be able to pay for. So River Park, for example, pays double what everyone else pays in property tax in the city. And so when I hear comments, you know, why does North Oxnard look so much better? A lot of it has to do with these new neighborhoods that pay an extra tax for this funding. Mr. Quiroz, you're shaking your head already, but we'll continue our debate. Now, the older neighborhoods, here's what's actually even more interesting. Unless the property has changed hands outside of the family since pre-Prop 13, properties in those neighborhoods actually still pay the old tax rate, right? Because, again, in that instance, thanks to Prop 13, their property tax remains quite low. So if you take the overall average of what the tax revenue is for Oxnard and the public services that are provided, you're actually getting quite a good deal. Because if you're paying the old pre-Prop 13 tax assessment rate. So I just want to make that clear because I don't think people understand in the new neighborhoods, they pay extra property tax every year. Okay, so now I'm going to go over the investments that the city does make in South Oxnard, and this is in no particular order. And I'm not going to get into the fine details. If someone has a burning question, you can ask afterwards, and we have all the department heads here that can answer specific questions. So with regard to recreation services, I'm just going to go over this slide very briefly. We provide after-school programs serving 300 students at 3 school sites in South Oxnard. Let's see, Elm Street, Lemonwood, and Harrington School. We also provide the Wainimi After School Education and Safety, the ACES program, serving 700 students at Hathaway, Haycox, Larson, Sunkist, Williams, Blackstar, and E.O. Green schools. We have a town keeping program. The City Corps works to help collect illegal dumping and garbage in the alleys. You can see that in 2022, they collected over 45,000 pounds of garbage. With regard to special programs that provides community support, every year we provide free backpacks to kids at the South Winds Rec Center. This most recently serving, the last several years, serving over 1,200 students. We also provide the pre-Thanksgiving dinner to 520 households in and around South Winds. The turkey giveaway, 668 households, also done at South Winds, as well as Santa's Workshop toy giveaway, over 3,500 households in South Oxnard. And of course, we have our summer lunch program. In the last several years, we've served over 22, I think there's a typo there, but I think it's 22,000 meals. Could be 220,000 meals. I wouldn't be shocked. In terms of events, the PAL programs hold their Kids Fest, over 2,200 participants, kids and families and adults. The PAL program has various community events throughout South Oxnard parks. Each year, over 2,000 participants. We also conduct the Meetup Cleanup events, and we have a program called the Mobile Activity Center that has serviced over 700 participants in South Oxnard. With regard to housing, we have nearly $6 million invested in public housing through the Oxnard Housing Authority in South Oxnard. We have 5 apartment complexes, and out of those, there are 170 affordable housing units, again, within those 5 complexes. There is over $7 million of new investment coming in through our housing department, and that will be for 4 multifamily developments, and those will include 218 affordable housing units. We also provide Housing Choice Voucher Assistance Program for 386 vouchers distributed throughout South Oxnard. With regard to homelessness, something that is happening not only throughout the city, but throughout the state and the West Coast and other parts of the country. We've done a lot of work coming right in front of us or right ahead of us the next couple of months. We did receive a state grant to do a major operation at the McWayne homeless encampment. So that's coming up in the next couple of months. Those projects cost a lot of money. We're very fortunate that in this most recent round of state funding, we were awarded this amount. We also have choice neighborhood grants, and we are applying. So these are potential, but we are actively applying for between $25 and $40 million for investment of the Wainimi Shopping Center for redevelopment. Hopefully, we'll get some or most of those grants, and we can begin work on that redevelopment project. With regard to community development block grants, $2.3 million invested. You can see there Pleasant Valley Park Restroom, South Winds Youth Program, the Rec on the Go program in the South Winds, and the basketball court reconstruction. So some state funds there. There's also a little bit of private investment going on. So I'm obviously not going to get into the details of these, but we share you this just to share a comparison. So obviously there's more private investment occurring in North Oxnard, but South Oxnard is not absent private investment. Now, these can include projects which are residential, commercial, industrial, or mixed-use developments. The reason we share this is often, not every single time, but often when there's a private development, it comes with some required public improvements immediately surrounding the vicinity. So again, there's South Oxnard is not absent some private investment.
City Manager, before you lose that slide, can you tell the public where we draw the line, South Oxnard, North Oxnard?
Mostly Woolley, I think, is the conventional wisdom. I personally don't draw it anywhere. I leave that to all of you.
In the past, Willie Road had been,
Yes. All right, library. So we've been investing in modernizing our libraries, including the South Oxnard branch. And you can see we're getting new computers in there for the patrons to use, new computers for the staff to use, and then some specialized tech for bookkeeping and self-checkouts. We have, of course, Fire Station 8. That is and these funds come from Measure O. That is over $800,000 annually to operate that station, which, like all fire stations, is 24/7, 365 days a year. We also have, in terms of the responses, Station 8, since 2000, or no, this is for 2021, over 4,400 emergency responses out of that station. And we continue, because we're still paying for the station, we continue to invest in paying for it. College Park, which is not complete but significantly completed. College Park, we invest, again, over $800,000 a year for ongoing maintenance. And in terms of the city's large community parks, not the neighborhood parks, College Park, I think, is the most advanced one relative to certainly Sports Park, and Campus Park is just now getting off the ground. Fire Department also invested a lot of resources during the pandemic, but especially the height of the pandemic, conducting many COVID tests, over 1,900 in various South Oxnard locations. And of course, they provided all of those for free. Also, specific to districts 5 and 6, and this now goes back to 2018, over 6,800 advanced life support responses to residents of South Oxnard from our fire department. In terms of our ongoing efforts to get new working smoke alarms installed into people's homes, you can see here in the last year, the fire department has been successful in installing free smoke detectors around the city to 650 locations. 239 of those are in South Oxnard. Now, each location usually requires more than one smoke detector. So you can see out of the 650 addresses citywide, that's over 4,600 detectors being installed for free by our fire department. And again, it's because they have to be in each bedroom and specific
Mr.
other
City
locations.
Manager, Councilman Turan has a question.
Yes.
Thank you. For this particular slide here regarding the smoke detectors, I appreciate the numbers being broken out by district, but I also want to point out that many of the recent developments, specifically like in River Park, Wagon Wheel, even South Bank, may have homes that had wired in smoke detectors and are newer and maybe have not met their life expectancy yet and need a replacement. And so, whereas if we think back to the first slide, the number of remaining neighborhoods that were developed prior to the 1960s or during that decade, in my head, I think would start with Sierra Linda and Orchard Park and everywhere south, probably should be taking advantage of this to at least have your smoke detectors inspected. And many, I have heard, have far exceeded their life expectancy and should be replaced even though they still seem to operate, or even though the batteries may be replaced regularly, which many people don't do anyways. But I just wanted to point that out. Given the age of many of our developments, some of the newer ones may have smoke detectors that don't need to be replaced yet, but could benefit from inspection. But plenty of other, probably the majority of homes in the city of Oxnard should take advantage of this, correct?
Right. Yes, thank you for that nuance.
Many
Many of the newer apartment buildings.
One more question from Councilman Perella.
I've had a request from residents that they would like to have the smoke detectors dropped off. If we could have a statement from the fire department. They are installed by the fire department. They're
Correct.
not dropped off, correct?
Correct. They need to be installed by our staff.
That's the
We
policy,
we cannot just hand them off. It's the requirement of the grant that provided the detectors to us for free.
Thank you.
And Councilmember Turan, thank you for that. Yes, most of the new apartment buildings have hardwired detectors. That's correct. Okay, moving along. So police. I'm just going to go through these. They send their staff out. They've attended this past year 40 neighborhood council meetings in South Oxnard. They have increased their police presence and enforcement along the Savior's Corridor, which consisted of addressing business owners' concerns, loitering, and trespassing, and also listening to Councilwoman Basua's comments about what she observes down there. Also, this year so far, the year is not over yet, 80 arrests, 20 of them being narcotics related. The Drug Enforcement Unit also works on bigger cases, specifically 15 different cases involving narcotic activity. And of course, vehicle theft detail in South Oxnard, including 10 recent auto theft arrests and vehicle recoveries this year. Our police also attend, in addition to the neighborhood council meetings, many community events. Of course, they help out with the turkey distribution. They participate in Read Across America at Haycox Elementary School. They do a coffee with a cop at the South Oxnard Senior Center. They attend the National Night Out event this past year. I think there was one at Cal Giesler. They also participate at Oxnard, at the College Park with the Oxnard Pal Kids Fest. There's a Red Ribbon Week that they participate in at E.O. Green Junior High School. And this is unfortunate but necessary. They provide active assailant presentations, most recently to Hueneme High School. Sad that we need to do those things. Okay. Now, just to get people familiar, the police department is organized in police beats. So they have, currently with the population that we have, they have 4 beats. So you can get a sense of districts, not beats, districts. And then within each district, there are police beats. So District 4, and I think is that part of District 2 covers South Oxnard. So just to have a orientation, because they are not, these districts preceded the council district formation in 2018. Okay, calls for service. Lots of information here. I'll give it a summary in comparison to other Oxnard Police Department beats. Beat 42, which includes South Winds, is among the mid-range in numbers of calls for service. So it's similar to other beats in Oxnard. 3 consistent calls for service types for beat 42 include, and so again, these are the most common ones: traffic stops, subject disturbing, and homeless disturbing. And our response times are 5 minutes and 5 seconds, and South Oxnard response time is relatively equal to that, averaging 5 minutes and 4 seconds. I will say that, again, as our population grows and in the future, not the near future, but not the far future, when we have a functioning police precincts down there, that will help improve response time throughout the city. In terms of streets, so believe it or not, since 2016, the city has invested in over $36 million in street and alley work in South Oxnard. I know there are many neighborhoods still that are in desperate need of street improvement, but we are working to catch up. I'm not going to go over this list here, but this is a public document now, and it's available if anybody wants this. But we are investing. So let me just go through very quickly and see what I can rattle off here. So arterial street improvements along Huanimi Road, east of Saviors Road, alley reconstruction, Woolley Road crack sealing, Kepler Drive resurfacing, San Mateo Place resurfacing, Sierra Place resurfacing, Eden Street resurfacing, Sutter Place resurfacing, Geronimo Drive resurfacing, north of Maple Street alley reconstruction, Ormond Beach Neighborhood Street resurfacing, Rose Ave Street resurfacing, and then within that, let me see, I see East 5th Street, Bard Road, Emerson Ave, 5 Points Northeast, Pacific Ave Commercial Central, Bard Road, and then there are different kinds of work, maintenance overlay, thin maintenance overlay. Those are things you have to ask the Public Works people exactly what those mean. And then Channel Islands Boulevard, Arterial Street resurfacing, Concord Way, alley reconstruction, Pleasant Valley Estates Neighborhood Street resurfacing, Huanimi Road widening, storm drain improvement, water line improvement, and bridge widening for an industrial drain, College Estates Neighborhood Street resurfacing and water improvement project. There's another list there: Pleasant Valley, Lark Street, Fournier Street alley, Paula Street, Del Oro Place, Homer Street, SA Street E, I have no idea where that is, and Bryce Canyon Ave, Xavier Street resurfacing, Elm School sewer pipeline replacement, Redwood Neighborhood Street resurfacing, Saviors Road, Pleasant Valley, Saviors, Clare Street, Hood Way, Huanimi Road, Cortlandt Street, and something called Route 23 bus stop installation. So various projects going on. Okay, a few more stats there. 2.5 miles of lane restriping and legends, over 2,600 sidewalk grinds to help prevent trip and falls, 1,200 plus potholes. The last year and this year so far, we're at 782. Then in terms of responding to 311, so this is specific to when residents and business owners put in a 311 request. We have 342 requests for sidewalk repairs, 30 for curb and gutter, 176 sign repairs, and 38 asphalt sidewalk ramps. Almost done here. Parks restoration projects, and these are just the highlights. So Garden City Acres Park, new basketball courts and lighting, that was completed last summer of 2022. South Winds Park resurfaced the basketball courts. Pleasant Valley Park, there's a new playground equipment project that's going out to bid. Pleasant Valley Park, there's a new Exelou project, is right now waiting for connections by utility companies. We expect that to open after the new year. College Estates Park, there's a new Exelou bathroom coming that's in design. We expect that first quarter of next year. And of course, the big decision by this council many months ago to invest in building the city's first ever aquatic center that is slated for South Oxnard. And as many of you may recall, due to the most recent Mr. Aaron Starr lawsuit against the city, that project is, and I'm sorry for this pun, is dead in the water until we get through that litigation. Some other parks improvements in terms of the last couple of years in South Oxnard, we have replaced picnic tables and benches, park barbecues, 26 of those, replaced trash cans, drinking fountains, and are working to continue new playground equipment, as well as safety equipment in the sidewalk at the parks. So again, some of this is completed, a lot of this is ongoing. And with regard to just a breakdown of 311 calls for requests for service, you can just see in South Oxnard we have, and now this is since 2019, we have over 26,000 requests for service from South Oxnard using the 311 app, which I always say is both a good thing and a bad thing, because most of the things that you report on 311 are committed by our own neighbors and other people who live here. So it's good that we're able to try to keep up with some of this, but it remains really bad that we have to keep up with a lot of this. In terms of reports of illegal dumping, we have, as you can see here, this is since June of 2021. 5,800 reports of illegal dumping in South Oxnard. Again, thank you for using the 311 app, and it's just a terrible problem, and it's sad that we need to. And that is it. It's a summary. I'm certain that isn't everything, but I just want to make it clear we are investing in South Oxnard. We are struggling to keep up with the work. We have, if you look at the capital improvement program for the city, there's a lot more work that's been approved by the council. Now it's a matter of funding, which, as I alluded to with the aquatic center, we are dead in the water with all of our major capital projects, be it roads, bridges, rebuilding the fire stations that are more than half a century old, or a new aquatic center, which this community sorely needs and deserves to have. We can't do any of that right now. So anything we do right now, we're burning cash. And that's going to run out very, very soon. So unfortunately, the progress that we've been able to make since the passage of Measure E is also slowing down. And it isn't just because of Mr. Starr's lawsuits. It also has to do with the economy, with inflation, and with the labor market. But we are continuing to make progress. The point I want to share is that I can say with a straight face that City Hall is not neglecting South Oxnard. In fact, and some of you know that I'm working on this, that I'm very focused on this for the next few years. The public institution that's in South Oxnard that hasn't been doing enough is actually the community college, and we are working on that to help them move along and to invest more in South Oxnard in the community. So we're focused on that, because the primary problem is that in our community, people's wages are too low. That is actually our biggest challenge as a citywide community. And the simple answer to that is a little bit of additional training and education for our residents. And there's only one institution in the entire county that can provide that, and that's the Oxnard Community College. So we are working on that, and I hope to have an update on that sometime next year. Thank you. And Mr. Mayor, thank you for giving me all this time tonight.
Mr. City Manager, before I go to Bert Perello and to Ron, I just want to thank you for that excellent report. You know, I know it's a general report. If we went into specific, it would probably take, another 3 or 4 hours just to say all the good things that we're doing in South Oxnard and throughout the city for that matter. One of the things that I'd like to share with you that you mentioned that I've heard is that how come North Oxnard neighborhoods look so nice and so forth. And you mentioned, and I hope that the public picked it up, that a lot of the folks in the newer neighborhoods have HOAs, they have LMDs, CFDs, where they pay additional monies for the landscaping, which some of the older neighborhoods in Oxnard do not have. One of the things that I'd like to mention publicly too is that you saw some of the alleys that we cleaned up. And I want to thank Marvin Booz has been week after week, day after day, cleaning alleys in the city of Oxnard. Him and some of those folks from Casa de Vida and some other volunteers that have helped clean our alleys. And I hope that potentially some of the people that live in those neighborhoods clean up their own alleys, because I know that Marvin many times has mentioned to me that he goes by and they're cleaning their alleys, and people look over the fence and says, "Oh, what are you guys doing, cleaning the alley?" Says, "Yeah, can you help us?" Well, we don't have any time right now. But if all of us got together to clean our neighborhood, our streets and alleys, we wouldn't have a lot of this litter. And Oxnard is not unique, by the way. But I just want to thank you for an excellent general overview of South Oxnard and some of the parts of the city. And Councilman Perello.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to add Mr. Marvin Booz in Casa de Vida, and he has volunteers consistently from the Mormon Church helping him, and a shout out to them. I appreciate this presentation. I do not represent parts of South Oxnard, but as a council member, I'm responsible for parts of South Oxnard. I'd like to see if we could get slide 3 and slide 11 back up on the PowerPoint. On slide 3, the question I have, it indicates in the center part of the slide, these events are all taking place in the South Winds neighborhood. And I'm wondering, we distribute those events throughout the South Oxnard area? Or are all neighborhoods equally informed of what's going on with the events taking place on slide 3?
So we do these events in a few other areas. This report's just focused on South Oxnard.
Okay, thank you. So it's distributed. I just wanted to point that out because somebody may draw the wrong conclusion. Again, an excellent report. On slide number 11, we did indicate that there had been some arrests for the car thefts. And can we get a report? Because I know that the council members receive the weekly, daily update, the activities going on, the numbers of car thefts in an area, but most important, Chief, the number of guns that are taken off the streets in the entire city and the proportion that come off the south end of town, the South Oxnard, apparently Woolley Road South.
We can do that, and since we're at it, we'll just do one for every district.
Okay, because the fact that you're taking guns, automatic, ghost guns, stolen guns, and guns that apparently are owned but they're illegally being used, and protecting our residents throughout the city of Oxnard is a big thing. And I hope to give you guys an opportunity to share that with us, because I don't think people realize it. I don't think they realize what you guys go through every time you come upon a car.
We could do that, and I suggested we do that at the next police department update.
Okay, thank you. Those are my only questions.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Turan.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the information and the context around investments that have occurred in South Oxnard. One thing that maybe I missed it, but I do want to give credit where it's due, is in Durley Park, where I believe it was in 2019, the Parks and Rec Community Services Commission recommended and the City Council approved $500,000 to be spent at Durley Park to replace the playground. And that playground, prior to that, I think was one of the oldest unimproved playgrounds we had throughout the city. I believe it still had sand and was missing a slide, as many of our facilities do, but had a small footprint and not much actual equipment to play with. And if folks go and check it out now, It has a baseball-themed playground with rubber compound and some accessible amenities there and equipment for children and adults who may be challenged with mobility. And so I encourage folks to go look at that, but that was another investment that was made there. And in addition to that, I believe the city received a $7 million grant for additional park enhancements and upgrades at Durley Park as a whole, which did include, similar to Campus Park, engagement with the community in saying, what would you like to see at Durley Park? What can we do? What should we do that is relevant for this community? And those community members voiced their thoughts and their opinions. The grant was written with that in mind and was awarded by the state to the tune, I believe, of $7 million, maybe a little bit more. Lastly is regarding some public works improvements, and I did see that there was paving that was mentioned there, and maybe our public works director can correct me if I'm wrong on this. And I was talking with Mr. Quitos prior to the meeting, and I was trying to remember which neighborhoods we had that had cast iron pipe replacements and repaving after the pipes were replaced, and I believe it was Redwood and Bryce Canyon North and South, with us recently approving Kamala neighborhood for the same type of work. And I see Mr. Wolf's walking up here. Do those sound correct, those particular neighborhoods?
Yeah, the first, good evening, Mike Wolf, Director of Public Works. The first two predate me, but that rings a bell, and then the last two, Kamala and Hobson, are the other two.
Hobson would be another one. And before you leave, the cast iron pipes, those date back as far as, I believe in Colonia, they were like 70 years old, I would imagine. In these neighborhoods, probably around that age, maybe 60, 70 years old as well. Does that sound right?
That's a good assumption, yes.
Okay, so this is a major investment that I hope folks understand. Is we have a number of neighborhoods that still have cast iron pipes, but we have at least these checkmarked off of our list in the Redwood, Bryce Canyon North, and Bryce Canyon South neighborhoods soon, Kamala and Hobson. And I know that my neighborhood, Fremont South, and then Wilson neighborhoods are in the queue as well, a couple fiscal years down the line. And while these may be large capital projects and disruptive to daily life, know that the delivery of water reliably and in newer transports like PVC piping is important to health, safety, and welfare. So that's my only questions. I thank you, Mr. Wolf, and thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, I understand we have a couple of virtual speakers. Let's start off with virtual number one.
Yes, Mayor Zaragoza, we have two virtual speakers. And the first one is caller with phone number ending in 6377. Please press *6 to unmute and introduce yourself if you like, and you have 3 minutes.
Hello.
Go ahead. 3 minutes.
Hi. Yes. My name is Emmanuel Herrera, the creator of Citizens for Better Oxnard. I wanted to basically say that I agree with Mayor Zaragoza and Councilman Perello that this was an excellent presentation. So, you know, we often hear, like what the city manager was saying, we often hear that the city is neglecting the south side of Oxnard. Why is it? Why is it that they're always neglecting the south side of Oxnard? But as you can see by the presentation, that's not necessarily the facts, right? So one thing I've always said is that the best citizen is an informed citizen. Well, I want to add to that. The best city is one that informs its citizens. So this presentation, I think, was outstanding. I think you guys should do this more often, and not just at a city council meeting. For example, I'm watching you guys through YouTube. There's only 21 people watching right now. Now, I know there'll be other people watching later after the fact, but this is very important information that needs to go out to over 200,000 residents that live in Oxnard. And right now, only 21 people saw the presentation. So I encourage not only the city manager, the city staff, the city council to please continue to give out the proper information, because facts are facts. You cannot dispute facts. So continue with giving presentations like this that are going to inform the citizens of Oxnard of what's being done. Because also don't forget that if they think you're not doing something, they think you're doing nothing. So by all means, I invite the entire city council, use Citizens for Better Oxnard, post on there things that are happening, things that are coming, things that you're doing, because the people need to know. The more they know, the better informed they are. The better informed they are, the less they can complain about, right? So please continue to do this. Also, the city belongs to all of us. And I also agree with the mayor in his comment that the people of Oxnard need to do their part too. Like he was talking about the alleys, that Mr. Booz goes out there and he cleans the
30
alleys.
seconds.
And then the next week it's back to the same old thing again. So the people need to do their part as well. So anyways, let's continue the good work. Thank you so much. And please continue to inform the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, virtual speaker, Madam Clerk.
Yes, Mayor Zaragoza. The next speaker is caller with phone number ending in 9442. Please press *6 to unmute and introduce yourself if you like, and you have 3 minutes.
Hi, this is Deirdre Frank. I'm calling about this issue. The people in South Oxnard are not asking about your Band-Aids and your charity that you've given to their neighborhood. They're looking for a vision of the future for this neighborhood. What's the vision for this neighborhood? What is in South Oxnard? Ormond Beach. No one's brought up Ormond Beach. This is the future of South Oxnard. It's going to provide for ecotourism, Audubon interest, university research, laboratories, marine science, botanists studying native plants. You'll have hotels for ecotourists, laboratories with science students. You have allowed the Port Hueneme Harbor District, which I have great respect for, but you've allowed them to intrude on the space that should be preserved for Ormond Beach and the future of South Oxnard. The Harbor District's been infringing on your space little by little, and lately not so little. Going through a checklist of what your accomplishments are, what pipes you're putting in, what alleys you're cleaning up, that's fine for the immediate inquiry by your residents. But these people are looking for a vision, and the vision of South Oxnard is probably the most economically feasible area of Oxnard for astronomical growth. It's not shops, it's not shopping centers, it's science, it's tourism, it's ecology, and you're missing the big picture. Spend your money on acquiring more land, working with your land conservancies there. You're getting rid of your, I know Alex is working on getting rid of the Halico and the power plant there. Make that a priority.
30 seconds.
Believe me, if I had any extra discretionary funds, I would be buying all the properties in South Oxnard with the anticipation that Ormond Beach is going to bring unbelievable financial success to that area. You're missing the big picture. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more virtual speakers, Madam Clerk?
Mayor Zaragoza, there's no additional virtual speakers.
Okay, so we have people here, Sofia Vega, and followed by Carolina Magana. Sophia.
Good evening. My name is Sofia Vega. I am the Southwinds Neighborhood Chair, and I am also serving in the INCO board. And yes, I think some of the comments that were expressed earlier virtually can resonate, and others I question. Just like how they said that they are accessing the YouTube video, although the Tuesday, September 19 video was taken down, and I've been trying to look for it. So that's something that I hope to see. Not sure why it's not available and on there. And I'm sure I hope to hear back to figure out what's going on with those videos that were taken down and they're not available to the public. And another thing, it's the holistic comments that were brought up regarding South Oxnard. When there's major issues that need to be addressed, that's what we're focused on. So during events that happened and need immediate attention, that's what we're looking for. I know we understand and we're very grateful for all the services that we've had and the great communication and connections that we have with the rec department that's been allowing us to, use some of their PAL buildings to be able to host the food distributions there on Saturdays, and the amazing events that they put up for South Oxnard, Southwinds residents there. But like we saw in the map, right? And there was a comment that they said facts are facts. Yes, of course. And we can see it on that slide where it says that private investments are majorly placed in the north side of Oxnard, right? And I'm sure there's more to that where, the actual business decides where to go, or if the city of Oxnard can suggest locations of where they can put their business, sure. But you can clearly see some of that is highly needed on the south end. And I did notice that you have some grants being worked on. Who's responsible for that? When can we see some work or status on that? I know Housing Director Mr. Ramirez mentioned something like that. So we're looking forward to hearing more information as far as who will be responsible for those grants, how can we know more about it, and what are the steps to be able to get those grants. And I don't know, the taxes were raised for everyone in the entire city, right? It wasn't just for food or electronics, it's flat for everybody. Taxes are 9% or more. And we're getting some of that invested back into the city with services. But is there a possibility of raising the minimum wage for all the residents here in Oxnard? Is that something the city could do? I don't know. And so when we talk about and we come here that we're being neglected, we're looking at those issues, immediate issues that we're addressing when we need those services. So I hope that you don't take it personal and that we are being addressed immediately.
Thank you, Sophia. And staff was taking notes, Sophia. Thank you. Carolina Magana, followed by Carlos Quiroz. Carolina.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for letting me speak about this issue. And first of all, I will start about the Hotel Del Playa Inn. I wouldn't mention it, but since the city manager mentioned it, we were not told this was a project from that building company. We were told one thing and then another, so we were all confused. I guess now it's clear who was the owner of that project. And I have a question about some of the reports on the presentation. It was mentioned from June 2022 to June, I believe, 2023. There was a presentation for crime statistics in 40 neighborhood meetings. How did that happen? We only have 12 meetings in a year. So is that accurate? The other question I have is that for the Winnie Road widening storm drain improvement, what part of Winnie Road? It was not clear. So this has to be clear as water. I guess the presentation said Winnie Road, but not specifically where. And so I guess that's all. And I truly appreciate the presentation that the city manager had. And I also agree with the last speaker, not Sophia, but the other person who was on the phone. We are asking for a vision for South Oxnard. We are not asking to fix that, just the small picture. We have a big potential for revenues for the city. We have the Ormond Beach right there. Why don't you guys have that vision? Or if you have it, why don't you guys come and tell us? We can bring a lot of revenues to the city. We can make it better. We are such a big potential for better. So thank you.
Thank you,
Please,
Carolina. By the-
nothing is personal. It's just my
And those are good points, Carolina, and some of our priorities, we have talked about a vision, and also the city manager mentioned about the vision for Saviors Road all the way to Wainimi Road, and
yeah.
so we do have that information, and potentially in the future, we can have a meeting at your neighborhood so we can present those ideas to you. And thank you for your information.
That would be so much appreciated. Thank you
so much. Okay, Mr. Quiroz.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, city council members, member public. Sorry, I don't like giving my back to anybody out there.
That's okay, you're addressing the board. Thank you.
Thanks. One of the things that I want to say is I'm the chairperson for Redwood. When I became a chairperson, it was stated that there was a council member out there that got the member together or the group together. I'm sorry, I get real nervous on this.
You're doing okay. Go ahead.
Just don't give me the heart attack.
One of the things that I want to say is, we're paying extra money from Measure E. And I would like to see if we could get a task force to see if we could get individuals or the city hire somebody out there to start cleaning alleys. And it's unfortunately and disappointed that we have to have volunteers to do the alley cleanup, which I've done it before. So all I'm doing is asking you guys and to look into it, if you guys could do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Quiroz. Madam Clerk, do we have any other speakers virtually or in person?
Mayor Zaragoza, we have no additional speakers virtually or in person for this item.
And Mr. City Manager, thank you for the excellent presentation. Okay, our next item is City Council and City Council members. Do they have any brief announcements or activities that you'd like to share? And also any items you want to place for future agendas? 3 minutes, please. We'll start off with Councilman Charan. 3 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So I have a very quick update. I was able to attend the South Bank Neighborhood Council briefly. It was on the same night as the Carriage Square Neighborhood Council, but one was at 6:30, the other started at 7, so I was able to go at the request of the chair for South Bank just to update the residents on some items that fall into District 2, which is the new businesses that are slated for the landing. I do want to thank our Community Development Department for having all that information readily available, and I provided that information to them so they could refer to kind of a deeper dive if they wanted to look at that information. And thank you to the Carriage Square Neighborhood Council for holding their meeting. And I appreciate all the folks that came out. It was a really good turnout. And thank you to Chief Benitez, who came out and gave an update on Oxnard PD at the request of their chair. Lastly, we had a pop-up dog park in Sierra Linda neighborhood, and that occurred last Saturday. And it was kind of the first time out to try something like that in the neighborhood park. And I appreciate the neighborhood council for putting that together, as well as our parks staff, including Mr. Kevin Thompson, who's here tonight as well, and our recreation staff who worked tirelessly to build temporary fencing that was the night before used for skating in the fourth floor of the parking garage here. So I know that there were folks up late breaking down the skating and then showing up early to set up the dog park. So thank you very much for all their work on that. And it was a really great event, and it was great to see folks come out with their dogs and utilize the pop-up dog park rather than letting their dogs off leash in the open space or in the tennis courts. And thank you again to that neighborhood council for conceptualizing that idea and having us try it out to see how it looks. So there will be more steps to see what that might look like in a more longer temporary phase, but those are next steps to come. And lastly, Orchard Park had their bulky item collection this past Saturday. Carriage Square is having theirs this Saturday. And off the top of my head, that's all for District 2. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Councilman Madrigal.
Thank you. Over the past 2 weeks, I had the pleasure of helping out Rose Park with their bulky item pickup. I guess I should wait. No, that's fine. I could. We have a special guest, and I guess I could wait.
Councilman Basua.
Yeah, the special guest can go first. She kind of scared me. So by all means, please come up.
Oh, my goodness.
No, no.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. I'm going to go to the other side of the room.
So, Terrell, what do we have, some special guests here? Oh, my goodness.
It's for the kids.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, yeah.
Is this on?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. My name is Esteban Melchor, Recreation Supervisor. For the third year in a row, Jack has swiped the keys to the float and has taken over. So beginning tomorrow, Wednesday, October 18th through October 29th, the haunted float will be seen throughout the city of Oxnard. The schedule is available at oxnardrec.org and all of our Oxnard Rec social media accounts and the @SantaFloatX account, formerly known as Twitter. We also brought some flyers that we'll leave behind in case anyone wants to take some. You can check out our daily post with the glimpse link on your social media for live tracking of the float tour. If you want to get an up-close and personal look at the float, and you can join us this Saturday, October 21st, at our second annual Fall Festival here at Plaza Park from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Jack and Sally will be there with the float and taking pictures with our guests. And we definitely hope to see all of you there.
Thank you so much. Jack would like to share anything with us, or Sally? Jack? He's a little scary here, but he's...
There's something in the air.
Oh, there's something in the air. Sally?
Just watch out for the Halloween float. Look out for Sally and Jack and Zero.
Well, thank you so much. And I understand you're going to go from neighborhood to neighborhood. What date are you going to start?
Correct. So we have different neighborhoods. We start tomorrow, October 18th. And then we go through October 29th.
And the times of so the kids can...
So it's normally 6 through 9.
6 to 9.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
again, Terrell and your people always doing a good job.
Thank
Jack and Sally, you scare me. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you.
Put your hands together for Jack and Sally. They didn't bring any candy. What happened, Jack?
So that was you? Oh. Oscar, thank you. Anything else, Oscar?
Oh, yeah, quite a few, actually, Mayor. Today, I had the privilege of actually getting a preview of the new Rose Avenue School. It's slated to open actually over, I believe, Easter break of next year. So that should be opening up soon. And then next Thursday, I'm actually speaking at the Rio Lindo neighborhood meeting concerning actually our upcoming item on speed bumps. So other than that, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Basua.
I'm a little bit scared, so I'm going to pass.
We're going to pass, okay.
No, just joking. I have no updates, Mayor.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem? No? Councilman Perrello?
Thank you. I appreciated the guests. I attended the South Bank Neighborhood Council, and Supervisor Kelly Long was there, also Councilmember Turan was there. But I think that, in all fairness, we should give some credit to, apparently the Rio School District provided a very big digital signboard, which Mr. Turan was able to use to the advantage of the residents to show what was going on. So thank you, Rio School District. Attended the Clean Power Alliance and the Via Marina, where the Via Marina neighborhood saw a presentation from our city manager, and again, extremely well accepted by the residents. Asked a lot of good questions, some kind of sharp, but they all got answers. I appreciated the presentation tonight. I want to thank Manuel Herrera for calling in and bringing up the issues that he did during public comment on that item. There was also a car show at the Oxnard High School District. I went and saw a couple that were really interesting to me. A tremendous amount of cars there. One critique that I would have, when the music is played that loud, eventually the residents in Victoria Estates will start complaining. So just a heads up on that. And it's not the residents that live in the back, but it's the residents that live along Gonzales Road. And there's a lot. And there's also a church right there. I'd like to address an obituary that was brought to my attention in the paper Sunday. A gentleman named Ben Wong. I got involved in the city 1999, and I'd heard about this gentleman. And I will put his presentation on the social media. I'm not a fan of social media, but I think this is well worth it. Mr. Ben Wong came to the city of Oxnard, worked for the city of Oxnard in 1975, worked 24 years here. But one of the critical things that happened to Mr. Ben Wong pointed out that there were some public works projects that were not going to work. And for that, he lost his job. There was litigation. He got the job back. But he wasn't, in my opinion, treated the way he should have been treated. This is an entirely different city management and hopefully totally different culture in the city of Oxnard. But Mr. Wong was involved, as the mayor talked about, the various different positions that he held. But I'd just like to read some of the things that he was directly involved in his position as the Assistant Public Works Director, the City Engineer, the Acting Public Works Director, the Utility Director, the Water Resources Manager, and some of the noticeable accomplishments. The Oxnard Drainage and Water Systems, the 3rd Street Bridge, the Woolley Road Bridge, the Harbor Boulevard Bridge, the water plant reconstruction, wastewater treatment, plant expansion, Oxnard Town Center, Oxnard Auto Center, Oxnard Transportation Center, Del Norte Recycling and Transfer Station, and the Oxnard Library. The issue that came to my attention, having met the gentleman twice, was what transpired when Shopping at the Rose went in. There was a question whether the sewer line would be able to handle the sewage outflow, and it wasn't. He put his neck on the line, said that. They needed to make a site underneath the Rose Park, the Shopping at the Rose, to contain the sewage so they would pump it off-site in hours where they normally the residents don't use the sewage. I'd heard the story. I'd met him until my neighborhood had a problem, the South Bank neighborhood. And when we got a call from the south end of town talking about the manholes blown out of the center of the street, and a former public civil engineer for the county, former planning commission director, Albert Duff, informed me, weren't you aware of what happened to Ben Wong and why the complaints? And I remember Mr. Ben Wong telling me the second time I met him. He appreciated me asking questions, but he said, when you ask questions, don't be surprised if there's a mark on your back. I want to thank Mr. Ben Wong for all he did. I think it's worth having some sort of a presentation to his family for what he did, and I hope that everybody will get a chance to read this obituary. The gentleman is an asset to the community, his family, and his culture. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I just have a couple of items I'd like to share. I had the pleasure of attending the Million Mile Away outdoor movie that Terrell Harrison and the Ryder brother family put together over at College Park. And it featured Dr. Jose Hernandez, who was a farm worker, came from a farm worker family, and they picked cotton, they picked all kinds of fruits and so forth. So he wanted to go to space, and 12 attempts that he went to NASA to have him go to space, and finally after the 12th attempt, NASA gave him the opportunity to actually fly the shuttle Discovery into space. So it was really a great movie, outdoor movie. There was nearly 500 people that showed up there. They had food, they had fruits, I just want to thank the Ryder brothers. I want to thank Terrell Harrison and his people for providing just an excellent program for South Oxnard. We talked about South Oxnard, but it was really great. We had our police officer was there, and I can't remember his name, so him and his family were there, and some other individuals and their staff. But a very successful actually movie for the kids to see and the families. Additionally, I also had the privilege, again by the Parks and Rec, by Terrell. I got invited to go over and share with Carmen Jordan Perez. She's an advocate from out of New York that really works with kids. And we had the opportunity to talk to over 200 Channel Islands high school youth, on the future of what they were to do and how they can do whatever they want to do, they can do. And one of the things that we said is that the key to success is in education. And I just wanted to thank him for allowing me to share a couple of words with all those youth there that to look for the future and to make sure that they can do anything they want. So it was really a great program, and many other items that I attended, but that's enough for today. So thank you, Councilman Perello.
Yes, thank you for your words, Mayor. And for the public, and I appreciate Mr. Herrera telling us how many were watching it on YouTube. It's kind of sad. But this entire council has agreed to work with the idea that the city manager has brought to get Oxnard College where it can be better utilized by the residents of Oxnard. Not just South Oxnard, but the residents of Oxnard.
Mm-hmm.
It's an opportunity to build better families, better economic wealth, move up in the social standing with the skills and training you can get at Oxnard College. And the moments and the questions and the statements the mayor just read about talking to the kids, they can do anything. With the opportunity of the education, they can, with the assistance of their parents.
Thank you, Councilmember. And I'm going to say it, I say it over and over again. And I've been a policymaker for almost 28, 29 years. And this is the best that I've served with. Board, city council members that I've worked with, and also with our staff, and the city manager and our police department, our public works department, our fire department, and all the directors that we have, and all our employees that we have. This is probably the best that I've worked with, and really, I just want to share that, and I'll say it over and over again. Again, there's all going to be a percentage that will never be happy. They say we are not doing what we're supposed to be doing, but it was shared today, and to me, it's been a privilege to work with staff, working with our youth and working with the public and our neighborhoods. I just want to share that. Anyway, our next item is...
Excuse me, Mayor Zaragoza.
I want to ask, is there any other speakers?
Yes, we have one virtual speaker named Mandy Torres.
Okay.
Mandy, please press star 6 to unmute, and you have 3 minutes.
Hi, this is Mandy. I wanted to, complain about, is it code enforcement? Lately, we received 2 tickets, and both of those tickets did not come with warnings. They just showed up in the mail. And one of the officers that came aboard or came over had said that she can just write a ticket willy-nilly and without having any type of warning present. What ended up happening was we have a fishing boat and we take the boat out from time to time, and it parks we park it on the lawn so that way we could wash it and the water can run off onto our grass, so that way we're not wasting water. But they only, I guess, come out for complaints, code enforcement does, and supposedly that is the only reason why they showed up to our house. Mind you, there's other vehicles and boats that are parked on the lawn within our neighborhood, and I guess they just turn a blind eye just to give us a ticket. Anything else I should put on there?
Just keep going.
Thank you.
They're not doing their job. They're doing us a disservice.
It feels like we're doing us a disservice in a sense where we're just being harassed at this point, or at least we're feeling we're being harassed. Because like I said, other people in the neighborhood, just to get to our house, we can count up 6 different violations, but of course we're the only ones that are getting these tickets without a warning. And to my knowledge, we were supposed to be getting warnings before we're issued a ticket to correct the violation.
Thank you for your concerns, and again, the code compliance has lots of work to do, but you can always call the office at code compliance and share additional information with them. Thank you for your concerns.
Can we have somebody from, I believe,
Jeff, can you contact us? Oh.
Well, the issue is
Yeah.
that there are oftentimes, this is not the first time that I've heard something like this, that they will cite someone, but the person next door has the same thing. And my understanding as a councilman, I've been told code compliance goes from complaint to complaint. They don't go down the street and take care of the things. Maybe I've been informed wrong by the city, but maybe we could clear that up.
Councilman, I think Jeff heard that.
A future agenda.
Thank you, Jeff. Jeff and his people are really concerned about that too. Thank you for the speaker for their concerns too. Any additional speakers?
Mayor Zaragoza, there's no additional speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Okay, our next item is item I, which is a review of the consent agenda item. And we have items 1 to 6 consent items. Do we have any speakers on the consent?
Mayor Zaragoza, there's no speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Okay, council members, we have 6 items. Any concerns on this item? If not, I'll need a motion to approve 1 to 6.
Mr. Mayor, if there's no discussion, I will move the recommended agenda.
Okay.
And for consent agenda.
First by Mayor Pro Tem, second by Councilor Basua. Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. Our next item is reports L1. This is the Housing Department. This approval of the Downtown Oxnard Improvement Association Annual Work Plan and Budget for fiscal year 23-24. The recommendation of the City Council approve the Downtown Oxnard Improvement Association Annual Work Plan and Budget for fiscal year 23-24. And this item did not originate in committee. And we have Mr. Ramirez, and do we have any speakers on this item before we continue? Madam Clerk.
Mayor Zaragoza, we have no speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Okay, so this item was a pre-recorded item. Is there any questions we'd like to ask Mr. Ramirez at this time, council members? If none, so we need a motion.
I will make a motion.
Motion? Virtually, because there was no speakers, right?
That's correct.
Okay, motion by Basua, second by Madrigal. Please vote.
Motion passed 6-0.
Thank you, Mr. Ramirez.
Thank you, it was a pleasure.
Okay. Item number L2. This is a Public Works update on the special hump program. Recommendation of the City Council receive and file an update on the speed hump program to include amendments to the program's eligibility criteria as outlined on the staff report. And this item did not originate in committee, and it's a continuation of an item approved by the City Council October 18, 22. And this is a pre-record item, Measure M, and we do have Mr. Michael Wolf for any additional information on this item. Council members, any additional questions on this item? The only good thing that I have is there's some people that really did measure up or did qualify for the humps and others did not.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. We received 29 applications during the first round of this process. And we have a selection, not a selection process, but a criteria process, sort of a threshold. And then we have an analytical process. So some of them didn't meet the minimum thresholds. And then some of them didn't meet the data analytical process. So yes.
Okay. Well, thank you. We do have a speaker on this item. It's Dan Pineda. Dan Pineda.
Not at the podium yet, but I really appreciate the large screens, 4K, but you still need to deliver 4K or the high definition to the homes. So you need to pay the
Yeah, say that again, Pineda.
you need to pay the cable providers to provide the high definition cable.
Oh, I see.
Signal. We still the letters are still blurry. Okay.
Blurry, then you can't see them. So maybe then, Mr.
Can you reset his clock? I just want to say, some of us look better in the analog.
Go ahead, Dan.
Mayor
Yes, sir.
Zaragoza, council members, city staff. My name is Dan Pinedo. I am an Oxnard resident in the Rio Lindo neighborhood. I am here to express concerns regarding the safety of the residents living on St. Mary's and Princeton Avenue. When I moved to Snow Avenue in 1978, 45 years ago, the traffic on these streets was light and safe. With the housing developments in northeast Oxnard, the pink and blue of the city manager's report, the traffic from Vineyard Avenue through these streets onto Gonzalez Road has increased to an unsafe levels. Because these streets have no sidewalks, the volume and the speed of vehicles have made them unsafe. An application for speed bumps was submitted recently, and I was informed that it was denied. The criteria to qualify a street for speed bumps include speed, collisions, and ADT. I'm not sure what that is, but well, the fact that these streets have no sidewalks, they should qualify under ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act. Mayor, council members, at 8 o'clock in the morning or 4 to 6 in the afternoon, I dare you to ride these streets on a wheelchair, walk with a child in a stroller, or at least ride a bike. I dare you to do this and feel safe. On October 6, 2023, a vehicle flipped on its side when it collided with a parked vehicle. There have been other collisions and there have been people hit. The traffic on these streets needs to slow down. Install speed bumps. I am requesting to see the results of the survey conducted on these streets. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Pineda. Michael, do you have any, we can meet with Mr. Pineda, in the future, and any additional information on this item?
We certainly can meet with him and provide the data that was collected.
Okay, Councilman Perella? No, you're, okay. I see you blinking here,
Yes.
and followed by Councilman Turan.
Mr. and Mrs. Pinedo did send me the photographs of the car flipped on its side. I can vouch that I saw it. It apparently creamed the curb too, broke the side of the street. There was some issue with the translation needed to talk to the police officer and how that worked out, but I was told by the head shaking that I'm not going there. But the issue of the walking on that street with no sidewalks, it could be a similar situation as in Colonia, where they would have to take the people's front yard to put sidewalks.
That's right.
And I don't think that would fly in that area, but it's a possibility. But I do know from the shortcuts taken, that St. Mary's Drive has become a shortcut that, as Mr. Pinedo stated, if you were to walk it between those hours, you would be putting yourself at serious risk. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. So,
But I do understand there's criteria. We can't just put them wherever we want. And if there's an opportunity to share, right, just the basic minimum criteria for a speed bump, that might go over for the 21 people that are watching.
Maybe I can talk in general about what speed humps are for. So the comment from the speaker is an ADA issue. And that's, for me, when you look at it from a traffic engineering standpoint, and I talked about this during our study session, I've talked about it many times, speed humps is one of many tools, and actually should be our last tool out of our toolbox when it comes to taking a look at certain things. The issue, again, without actually looking at the details, is more of an ADA compliance issue and a pedestrian access issue. I did look at the speed profile for that street segment. The 85th percentile that we gathered was 31 miles an hour, so 85% of the vehicles driving on that street are doing 31 miles an hour or less. And to put that in perspective, we do have residential streets that have 35 mile an hour speed limits. So again, just putting that in perspective, that the 85% of the vehicles traveling on that street were doing 31 miles or less. I'm not saying that's not a problem out there. I'm certainly willing to have staff and myself sit down, but I want to make sure that we're not using the speed hump tool as a solution for other things.
I appreciate you sharing that with the public, and possibly one more question. Explain the difference. Some people get speed bumps, speed humps. There is a difference.
That's
Can you
right.
please explain?
Correct. So we, in the engineering world, will use the term speed hump or speed cushion. Those are engineering designed features. Speed bumps are typically what you find in a parking lot. They're very abrupt, short in terms of lengthwise, and lengthwise when I mean in the path of travel. So ours, the ones that we would install, are engineered to provide a 25 mile an hour or less, typically 15 miles an hour, be able to access or go over that speed hump at a certain speed, or speed bumps are typically in parking lots, and they're meant to really bring you down to a zero speed to go over them.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Travan. Followed by Madrigal.
Thank you. Thank you to Mr. Pinedo for his words there. I know that St. Mary's Drive falls into District 3, and so it wasn't immediately on my radar, but looking at the table we have here for why it did not meet the analysis criteria, I see that it did not meet the speed minimum or the collisions. And looking at some of the discussion about proposed revisions to the program criteria, I see that we are having a consideration to lower the speed-related collisions requirement from currently 5 speed-related collisions in a 12-month period to 2 related in a 12-month period, which seems a bit more realistic and attainable for Oxnard streets. So that being said, to hear, and that was my question, that maybe that could be shared with Mr. Pinedo, or I know Councilmember Madrigal mentioned he's going to be at the Rio Lindo Neighborhood Council meeting, what the speed profile was, but if it's 31 miles per hour and we've actually already revised criteria to 32 miles an hour, it sounds like even with the collisions being adjusted, if it met that it would still be just below that threshold, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and that stands out of my mind because the last Sierra Linda Neighborhood Council meeting, we had pretty extended discussion on the objective analysis that was done on the speed study that was done for each of the streets that were able to make it to that phase. And there were a number of streets within that neighborhood that did not qualify as far as the speed profile goes. And I know folks may have their thoughts and perceptions on that. We have our traffic engineering staff who did the speed study in a way that was meant to allow vehicles to some time to gather up speed, so we'd get a very close to accurate and realistic average speed that they're going. And the maybe you could describe a little bit about what the devices are used. They're not the big signs that you see that, measure someone's speed, but maybe you could talk a little bit about that and how they're discrete in nature.
Yeah, certainly. So to your point, we don't want to put it immediately adjacent to a stop sign that would give an artificial indication of speed. We don't want to put it in certain places where maybe curves, those kinds of things. So we want to put it in a position that would represent a standard speed, anticipated speed in that segment. The machines that we purchased recently are about the size of a shoebox. We typically would attach them to an existing pole. And so they're pretty discreet in terms of being able to see them. I know in the past, and I'll date myself a little bit here, but in the past when we used speed tubes across the street or larger devices, the concern was that people saw those, didn't know what they were and slowed down, so it was kind of given an artificial speed. So the newer devices that we use today are pretty discreet. We put them in a position that we feel like represents the average speed throughout that segment.
Okay. And I know we had some extended discussion with the Sierra Linda Neighborhood Council. I'm hoping that you might be able to just edify for the public. Why is it that it has to be an objective number? Why is there a threshold? I think St. Mary's and Sierra Linda are really good examples where if the threshold is 32 miles an hour, if they're at 31 miles an hour, why do we have to have a limit? Just from an engineering standpoint and also, I guess, a liability standpoint too, on why there has to be, this. We can't just say, well, you're close enough, we're going to do it for you.
Right, we need to have an objective criteria in order from a liability standpoint. And I think the obvious question is, well, why not one more less? And then next week, why not one more less? And then the next week, why not one more less? So we have to establish a criteria to keep that liability, for lack of a better term. And we've originally drew that line at 34 miles an hour. That was the original line that we drew. And that's pretty consistent with other agencies that I've worked for and actually reviewed. That's a pretty consistent speed, and it actually correlates with how our police department actually does enforcement. So with the speed humps, we're trying to identify potentially that, I'll call it a gap in between when there will be enforcement and above the speed limit. So we're trying to identify that area that could be addressed from an engineering standpoint rather than an enforcement standpoint. And so when we started doing the analysis of all the streets that met the minimum criteria, we were noticing, I know this will be tough for people to hear, but Oxnard does not have a big speeding issue on the residential streets compared to some other agencies that I've seen. And so we wanted to make sure from a quality of life standpoint that we weren't missing some of these. And so staff made the recommendation to change the original 34 miles an hour to 32 miles an hour. That was based on understanding some of the speed profiles that we've already assessed, some of the street lengths that we have here in Oxnard, which are different than other agencies. Maybe different developed agencies have longer residential street segments. So we did that so that we can establish that objective criteria.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And just the last couple items I have here, just building off what you just mentioned, it's not an arbitrary number that we just, pulled out of a hat and said it's going to be 34, it's going to be 32. There is actual objective engineering reasons why we chose 34 and then later 32, correct?
That's correct. And so when I did go back and talk to the police chief, who was able to have a conversation with his enforcement team, they talked about what their typical enforcement is and what stands up, if you will, in a court of law in terms of speed tickets. And so we're trying to address that gap. And that's right now, that's 7 miles an hour.
Okay, thank you. And lastly, something that I learned as a neighborhood council chair when we had speeding in our neighborhood, we had asked our then beat coordinator to have traffic enforcement come out and do that. And what they did was they brought out the big trailer with the sign, and it said, as a reminder, it said reminder 25 miles per hour or whatever the messaging was. And then maybe a week later, they had motorcycle enforcement. And our beat coordinator had said ahead of time, said, just letting you know, it's probably your neighbors who are going to be the ones who are going to be speeding here. And sure enough, at the next meeting, the update was, we gave out X number of citations. Most of them were your neighbors who lived, their residential address on their ID was they were just blocks from home. And so there's certainly an ownership part of this for residents. We have to own our own behaviors and know that actions have consequences. And maybe people get a little too comfortable in their immediate surroundings and lose track of how fast they're going, but 25 is the default in all residential neighborhoods. I know that that's my experience in Fremont South. I've seen that similar in other neighborhoods since coming on council. But the last point I want to make that builds off of that, and it's a conversation I've had with Mr. Wolf here, is this concern about unintended consequences, where I'll use Sierra Linda as the example. They have Lantana, which qualified for each of the phases it's been through thus far, and had a speed profile that did make it qualify for being a candidate for speed humps. And we could certainly install the speed humps and have it slow down folks who are using Lantana as a very fast strip through the neighborhood. However, are we now going to be pushing those people who may live there and speed there normally? Are they now going to go to Jasmine Street or Mariposa Street? Because there's no speed humps there. And we're just pushing the problem somewhere else in the neighborhood, especially if it's not people cutting through the neighborhood, but residents who live there and know the streets well. So I just want folks to know that context and that consideration also. Again, thank you to Mr. Pinedo, and I hope at the Rio Lindo neighborhood meeting you all can have these conversations and further the discussion on this. So thank you very much, and thank you, Mr. Wolf.
And Mr. Pinedo has some information for you. Mr. Pinedo, then he can meet with you. You can.
Speed limit is 35.
Go to the microphone.
Mr. Pinedo, no, you can talk to Mr. Wolf, and then he can help you out.
Okay. No, it's just that I thought. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I believe the question is my comment about 35 miles an hour. My point was that some neighborhood streets, residential streets, have a 35 mile per hour speed limit. I didn't say that theirs did.
You do.
And and you said the police department's 7 miles, so it could be 7 above or 7 below 35?
No. I want to make sure this is clear. I was trying to give context to a speed of 31 miles an hour.
Yeah.
My context is that some residential streets, not necessarily this one, some residential streets that have homes that front that street actually have a 35 mile an hour speed limit.
That's right.
So context-wise, 31 miles an hour, I'm trying to give you context. There are other streets out there, residential streets, that actually have a speed limit of 35. Theirs is 25, is my understanding. But again, contextually, there are residential streets out there that have a speed limit as much as 35 miles an hour.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I was just going to add in, I don't think a lot of people understand that the way we do a lot of traffic engineering stuff is dictated to us by the state of California. And for police officers to use radar, it has to be a surveyed street. And so they have to survey 100 vehicles going through, and they have a thing called the 85th percentile, which is 85% of those cars, if they're doing below a certain speed, then that becomes the presumed safe speed. It's real complex. I mean, the easy solution would be for the city of Oxnard to go out and put up stop signs on every street corner in the city and make people stop every 100 feet. But we can't do that because there are criteria for evaluating a four-way stop sign or a two-way stop sign or a non-regulated intersection for no stop signs. And so we have very little discretion in this. The state traffic engineer's office is the one that promulgates all these things. And, as much as I'd love to have a bunch of stop signs all throughout Wilson neighborhood, it's not possible because the state traffic engineering office sets the criteria for how to do this. Same thing with speeding. If you go over on the 3rd Street Bridge on the east side and do a speed survey over there, and they won't let cops in uniform do the speed surveys because they know everybody tends to slow down when there's a uniform out there. So it has to be done very discreetly, so not everybody knows what's going on. But that's why the speed limits change on city surface streets, is because they go with that 85th percentile of 85% of the people are driving at this speed. That must be the presumed safe speed then. Otherwise, why would they drive at that speed? And it's really a complex issue. So I appreciate your explanation. It's really rather cumbersome to deal with the way we have to do it, but it is what it is what we're stuck with and what we're blessed with.
Sharon, you had another quick?
Yes, just quickly to Mr. Wolf's addition for context, there are some examples for folks who are listening right now of residential streets that have homes that front that street that have higher than a 25 mile per hour speed limit. We have H Street, pretty much its length from Vineyard all the way to Hobson where it starts, and that's 40, then 35, then 30, I believe. J Street, I believe, is 30 for almost its entire length, and maybe 35 in some spots. C Street also has a number of areas where it's 30 and 35, and homes are fronting those streets. But again, looking at our criteria, they can't be collector streets where we could, put speed humps along C Street, just because that wouldn't work. We would destroy our traffic flow through there on what is essentially a collector street. So, but those are examples, though, of streets that are residential streets but have a higher speed limit. So,
thank you. Madam Clerk, any speakers on this item? Additional speakers?
Mayor Zaragoza, there's no additional speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Thank you. Mr. Wolf, this is a receive and file. Oh, any addition?
Mayor, Public Works, the streets that have, say, 35, those street signs, those speed limits are posted on those streets?
Correct. So as the Mayor Pro Tem mentioned, there's quite a complex way that we set speed limits. One of the speed limit criteria is on residential streets. If there's not a posted speed limit sign, it's what's called prima facie speed. It's 25 miles an hour. So if we have to go out there and do a speed survey, and that 85th percentile is 30 miles an hour, then we have to post a speed limit sign of 30 or 35 or 40 or 45. So if it's not posted and it's a residential street, what's called the prima facie speed limit is 25 miles an hour.
Thank you very much. My second question is for the city attorney. Wasn't there a recent challenge to the question of possible speed humps by an individual going to sue because of fire department or ambulance response? Has that gone away, or is that still?
It's not ringing a bell for me.
There's nothing.
Somebody may have raised a concern. I'm not aware of any litigation about that. I'm not aware of any statewide issues on that either.
Thank you very much.
But that's not a definitive answer. It's just off the top of my head, I don't recall it.
Just an anecdotal comment is they do make a speed hump that fire trucks can get over, but passenger cars cannot by the axle width. And they specifically design speed humps for certain areas.
The split. Yeah.
Correct. We call those the speed cushions, and that's what we're actually proposing. And part of our process is to make sure that we do talk to the fire department and the police department, because again, in our study session, if everybody recalls, there are some negative or cons when it comes to installing speed humps, and one of them is reduction in emergency services.
Before I go to L3,
Thank you. I know we want to button up this item, but just real quickly, Mr. Wolf, just for the public record, I know Measure M prohibits the public from seeing, this stuff presented live. So instead of hiding this information from the public, as Measure M is purportedly doing here, I'm wondering if you wouldn't just mind naming the 5 streets that have met the criteria thus far.
Glenwood from F to C, Lantana from Gonzales to Comquat, Kamala from Ventura to M, San Juan from Bard to La Cañada or La Canada, depending on how you want to pronounce that.
La Cañada.
And Yucca from San Simeon to La Costa.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, L3, this is a Public Works Department again, so this is a Public Works Project 3240020 with Toro Enterprises Incorporated for Edding Road sidewalks and bicycle lane improvement project rebid specification PW 21-34R, state project number ATPL-5129098. Recommendation of City Council approve and authorize, number one, a total of $2,864,374.73 in project fund for Edding Road sidewalks and bicycle lane improvement project rebid specification number PW 21-34R C2005. And two, that the mayor execute an agreement with Toro Enterprises Incorporated for the amount of $2,386,979.45 for the project. And three, a project contingency amount of $238,697, 10% with Toro Enterprises Incorporated for the project. And for a project allocation in amount of $238,697, 10% for engineering, inspection, survey, project, and management for the project. And three, a budget appropriation of $1 million from the air pollution buy down fee, 360, and 411,147 from the circulation system improvement fee, 350 available funds balances for the project. And this item did not originate in committee, and this is a capital improvement project specifically listed in the city's capital improvement project budget, which was previously approved by the city council. And this is a pre-recorded item, and we do have, per Major M, and we do have a speaker of this item. This is Daniela Aguirre.
Mayor Zaragoza, Daniela is currently not available virtually or in person.
And do we have any other speakers on this item?
We do not have any speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Do any of the council members have any questions? If not, I need a motion to approve this item. So moved by Perello, second by Basua. Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. Our next item is item 4. This is a city attorney department, and the subject is resolution of the city council of the city of Oxnard adopting a conflict policy and procurement procedure for a design-build project. Recommendation is the city council adopt a resolution entitled, quote, a resolution of the city council of the city of Oxnard, California, adopting a conflict policy and procurement procedure to allow the city to use a design-build method for certain eligible public projects in accordance with Public Contract Code Section 22160 through 22169. And as of this date, the City Council agenda is being posted. There's not yet an outcome from the October 10, 2023 Public Works and Transportation Committee. And this is a pre-recorded Measure M item. And per city, any questions of our Assistant City Attorney? If Councilman Peralta?
It did come to the Public Works Committee, and it was approved to the Public Works Committee, correct?
Correct, it was
Yes.
approved 3-0.
But it was, yes. And I want to thank the Public Works City Attorney for being here with her 2 children. Welcome. But the points that I'd like to bring up, and she did a terrific presentation.
That's right.
At the Public Works Committee. This is based on the California State Legislative Analyst's Office, and it was based on some specific criteria. Can you go over that for us, please?
Sure. I think what you're referring to in the staff report is the findings of the Legislative Analyst's Office.
That's right.
So what they do is they analyze the bills coming through, and what they did for the most part is they looked at 15 different projects and found that most of them came in below the estimated cost. And one of them was just 5% over the cost. Second, all of them finished close to their target completion date. And all 15 were awarded on the best value basis, not low bid. And there didn't appear to be any issues that would favor low bid over best value based on the information that the Legislative Analyst Office reviewed. And that is important because sometimes public projects, when you do the design and then you have a separate bid for the construction, there will normally be a contingency amount. The project can still go over. You can have delays, projects that are supposed to be completed in 90 days, maybe 150 days out or longer. The information that they looked at showed that most of them were completed very close to the target date.
My fellow council members of the committee, it came out, this was a no-brainer. One of the last paragraphs in the staff report, so you read a line. If the city chooses to use the best value selection method, the city at a minimum must consider 3 statutory mandated criteria, which are price, technical design, construction expertise, and the life cycle costs over 15 years or more years when determining the entity's proposal provides the best value for the city. Do you perceive the city having any problems following those points?
No, and when we issue a solicitation or a request for proposal for a design bid project, we will let our bidders know what we're going to proceed under. Is it best value or is it low bid? And these will be part that we will look at. So we will consider the price. The main one will be technical design and construction expertise. And then the good thing about this is while some bidders' prices may be very low, the cost to operate and maintain the building or whatever facility we will use this for could be very high. So we want to look at life cycle costs, and that will be a savings potentially in the future. So we may pay a little bit more on the front end for something, but we have significant savings over the life of the building or facility.
And we have the talent in our staff to make those decisions.
Yes, he's right over there.
Public Works. I mean, it's a team deal. We're doing the best for the residents, the combination of Public Works, management, and the city attorney, and the people that are bidding for the work. If there's any comments Public Works has to make, if there's no other public comments or any, I'll move the recommended action.
Any speakers on this item?
Mayor Zaragoza, there's no speakers virtually or in person for this item.
We got a first one, and we need a second.
I'll second, Mayor.
A second by Mayor. But we got a first and a second here from Bert and then second by Mayor. But I just want to share something that you mentioned that was important on the committee. It's a best value, not the bid process, which I think is really important that people understand that. And there's certain projects that qualify and certain projects that do not, like the wastewater plant or a recycling plant and some other utilities that don't qualify for this item.
Yeah, so the project has to be at least $1 million. It has to be related to the brand new construction of a building
Right.
or construction of improvements to a facility, anything that has to do with parks and recreation. And then again, since we operate local wastewater, recycled water, and solid waste facilities, we could use design build to procure different types of bids for any projects at those facilities.
And this is supported by the trades,
Yes,
which is really important.
That's, and part of this is that whoever bids on this has to provide an enforceable commitment to use skilled labor, and so that would be.
Skilled labor.
Yes, basically a labor force that's gone
Very,
through
very important.
an approved apprentice program.
Okay, we got a first and a second, please vote. First by Bert, second by Mayor Pro Tem.
Motion passes 6-0.